Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first monthly program for 2021. I'm Teresa Fanucchi, and I serve as the programs chair for Santa Barbara Audubon, and I'll be hosting tonight. And I'm very happy to have with us this evening Santiago Escrusadilla, who will be presenting on birding in Colombia. Santiago lives up in the Eastern Sierras, and several years ago, he came down to Santa Barbara to present for us in person. And for the last couple of years, he and I had been corresponding, try to coordinate our schedules to get him back to Santa Barbara to present, but it just hadn't worked out. So a benefit to this move to virtual delivery is that we can now have him here with us across hundreds of miles and in the middle of a huge precipitation event. So we're very grateful for Zoom at this time, and so glad to have Santiago here. A few tech notes as we begin. You've come into the meeting automatically muted, and we ask you to stay muted throughout the presentation. If during the presentation you have a question, please use the chat function to ask it. I'll be monitoring the chat throughout the presentation and will convey your questions to Santiago during a Q&A session at the end. So our executive director, Catherine Emery, is providing tech support for this meeting. Thank you very much, Catherine. And a big thanks to David Levasheff, our webmaster, for supporting Catherine and leading up to this program. So before I introduce Santiago, let's go to Catherine for some brief chapter announcements.
So first of all, Happy New Year. It's really good to see you. For some quick announcements, as you know, bird walks still continue to be on pause. The conservation and education committees continue to move forward on great work via Zoom outreach to classrooms, and newly we're reaching out to retirement communities. We are also continuing with a lot of COVID adapted community science, which brings me to thank the CBC leaders who did an outstanding job this year. All the preliminary data, they are just preliminary right now as the compilers continue to work. At this time, it looks like Santa Barbara is 5th in the nation with 206 species. So thank you again for Rebecca and everybody who led that great effort. I want to remind you that the Great Backyard Bird Count will be February 12th through 15th, and you can look at that on our website. And also the Winter Bird Count for kids will be April 24th. That's to be determined, but that's when we're hoping to host it. I also want to thank David and also Teresa for running the programs. And thank you, Santiago, for joining us tonight with so much snow outside your window. It's a pleasure to have you. I also want to thank Santiago and Dolores for being on a morning radio show earlier this month. You can hear the recording, and I recommend you listen to it or you pass it to any friends who are interested and new to birding, because it was just a really fun presentation. I listened to it twice, and you can look at our Facebook page and find the information there. And last but not least, I want to thank all the members for your ongoing support and donations. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Catherine. Now it's my pleasure to introduce our presenter. Santiago Escrusadilla currently serves as the president of the Eastern Sierra Audubon Chapter. He is a Colombian-born American citizen residing in California for the past 41 years. He has taught environmental education in Spanish and English for the past 30 years, 21 of those with the Mono Lake Committee. At Mono Lake, he manages the committee's Outdoor Education Center program for Los Angeles youth and adults and for student groups from all over California. Santiago is an avid birder and bird photographer, leading birding adventures in Colombia during the winter and walks for school groups in the Mono Basin during the rest of the year. Santiago, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thanks for the invite. So we are going to get started. I'm going to go to the share screen. Good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining me and the great folk in your chapter that were kind enough to invite me again to come and do a presentation for you guys. And I hope you like it. The presentation is going to be basically, I'm going to talk a little bit about the geography, a little bit about geotones or ecological areas in Colombia. I'm going to show you a little bit about national parks. We're going to talk a little bit about the conservation, what's going on in Colombia since I last did a presentation for you guys about like 5-6 years ago, maybe even more. And then after that, I'm just going to show you some slides and some pictures, some pretty cool birds that we get down in Colombia. So here we go. There we are. This is Colombia, the northmost west on the northwest corner of South America. It's the only country in South America with 2 oceans. We have the Caribbean, the Atlantic Ocean, and then we have the Pacific Ocean to our west. Our geography is literally dictated by the Andes as they come from the Ecuador. From Ecuador, they split into 2 as soon as they come into Colombia, and then into a 3rd branch. And that 3rd branch will eventually go all the way east into Venezuela. And the Western Cordillera is the lowest of the 3 Cordilleras. And then there is the Central Cordillera that has several volcanoes, active volcanoes that are over 17,000 feet. Actually, one of them is over 18,000 feet. And then the Eastern Cordillera has some pretty high peaks toward the north part of Colombia, peaks that go all the way up to 18,000, close to 19,000 feet. And then if you look on the north, on the very top of the slide, there is a little word in there. I know if you can see, it's called La Guajita. And just to the south of that, there is a town called Santa Marta. And south of that, there is this massive mountain complex called Sierra Nevada de Santa Marta. And it's considered one of the highest mountain complex next door to the sea. That one has the 2 of the highest peaks in Colombia. It's a little bit over 19,000 feet. So the Andes create this incredible, I guess, again, this slide generalizes the ecotones in Colombia, but it gives you a general idea of what we have. Toward the north, we have a little drier. Toward the west, incredibly wet, the Pacific coast. In the central area, we have the Andes. The light green is plains, grasslands. And then, of course, the darker green is the Amazon basin. And within each one of these ecotones, there's multiple little subhabitats that is one of the things that make Colombia so unique in terms of bird species. Colombia has been kind of lagging, but trying to catch up in terms of conservation of areas. Everything that you see in this slide with the yellow is actually national parks. And they have been trying, to create more and more of these parks because they are understanding more and more the value, the incredible value, not only to the world, because, right, we're conserving these beautiful areas, but to Colombia too, because of tourism. Colombia has been waking up in terms of tourism and especially birding. Birding has been a big hit in Colombia. Unfortunately, the government is kind of slow, and it's taking a long time for them to really appreciate what they are doing in terms of doing the right thing with these areas that they're saving. And they are not allocating enough monies to keep these places vibrant and open to the public, et cetera, et cetera. They're having some issues. As a matter of fact, a really good friend of mine used to work for them, and last year, they didn't renew his contract. Incredible biologist, and he had to find something else with a nonprofit because he wasn't able to do his work that he has been working on for the last 6 years. On the other side, private land and private owners of these lands have becoming aware of the amazing richness that they're having with their land, within their lands, and they're starting to preserve a lot of lands. I'll give you a case example. During my tours, I go to this site called Hotel Tinabu in the Central Andes, and the owner of this land used to grow coffee everywhere. It was just crazy with coffee. And about 10, 15 years ago, he decided that he wanted to do something different and decided to let the jungle grow back up in his land, built a little hotel. And Hotel Tinabu now is one of my favorite spots where to go birding in Colombia. And it's all in private lands, which means that nobody can touch it. The guy's really happy with what he has done. All the neighbors around him thinks that he's absolutely loony. How can he get this beautiful land growing coffee and turn it into a jungle, into a high altitude jungle? And what is this thing with watching birds? Well, he is very successful and he's doing fantastic. And I could go throughout all of Colombia and you will find many individuals doing the same thing. So private landowners have become actually the #1 land conservationist in Colombia. And yes, you need some permits, and yes, you have to pay, and you have to do all this other stuff, but it's doing the work that the government is not doing right. And I am happy for that, since I get to go there once a year and enjoy the beauty of those lands. So I'm going to switch very quickly to some slides of the terrain. This is one of those volcanoes I mentioned earlier. This is Volcan El Ruiz. This is 17,400 feet. And this is one of the places that we actually go birding when I go to Colombia and take clients down there. We go to the entrance to this place is a national park. And we go to the entrance to the park at around 13,500 feet, and we go birding there. This is what it looks like. This is the high Andes. This is at about 12,500, 13,000 feet. We get this really incredible little ecotone of dwarf trees before we go to a taiga-like, tundra-like habitat with grasses. And this is one of the places that I love going because of the hummingbirds. This is a hotel at 11,500 feet, and it has the swimming pool. Actually, is hot springs. So, but yes, the hotel is beautiful. Yes, the hot springs are amazing. But the birds, I'm telling you, and I'm going to show you some examples of the birds that you find in this kind of an ecotone. So this is an example, again, another example of how private enterprise has come into buying lands and protecting it, building, hotels and things so that they can make a living, but also protecting the land around them and understanding that tourism, ecotourism, it's of incredible benefit not only to them but also to Colombia. It's a good way to change the perception of my country where I grew up. And everybody, when you mention Colombia, everybody's so scared of the place, like drugs, and they're gonna mug me. Well, I've been doing tours there for the last 12 years. I've taken easily probably about 100 people. And I think we have had a fantastic time. So the people in the countryside are incredibly friendly and sweet. And the countryside, again, is amazing. This is in the Central Andes. This is the Central Andes. For some reason, the Central Andes is one of my favorite places to go birding. This is at the end. This is within a little, one of the smallest national parks in Colombia called Otunquimbaya. It's one of the places I like to go a lot. And this is the river that goes through there. And you will see a type of duck that we get here on this river and these high altitude rivers. There it is. This is another example of conservation in Colombia. So this place is called Otunquimbaya. And about like 6-7 years ago, maybe 10 years ago, the small community, a little town below this place here, approached national parks and created this partnership with national parks, and they talked them into letting them do this. And that was for them to run the hotel, to run the bird watching, to provide meals, and they will be in partnership with the country, with a federal agency. So this is a great example of nonprofit groups working with the federal government, and all of the money that this group called Rio Blanco makes by bringing tourists into this area, and there is howler monkeys, and there's all kinds of creatures around here. The birding is fantastic. They are using that money to teach the community the doings of tourism. So there are kids that are going to university to get biology and get ornithology and learn how to tell names of the birds and their habitats and their behaviors. There's others that want to be in the kitchen, so they go to a special school and learn how to cook and how to cook in masses. There are others that would like administration, so they deal with administration. So I love to come to this place because I know that the money that I'm leaving behind with them is money that is well used, is benefiting their community, and is benefiting tourism in Colombia. So again, another example of nonprofits working with the federal government and trying to do really good things. This is the Tinabu Hotel that I was mentioning earlier. This guy, private owner, really good friend, and the guy just built this incredible paradise. And I think a good friend of mine, I think her name is Nancy Stakes, if I remember well. She has come with me like 6 times to Colombia. And if you have more questions about some of these places I'm showing you and what her experience has been in Colombia, you can do that. Same with John Alman. He has been to Colombia with me. Again, we keep with this conservation theme. This landowner in Valle del Cauca, this is the state where I grew up, flooded like, I don't know, like several acres of his land and created this wetland. Again, the neighbors think that he's cuckoo because there should be cattle in here and getting some milk and meat. And this place, it's very private, but you can go and visit. And in this place, 1 year, I think the Mistakes was there with me. We got over 600 blue-winged teals migrating. So again, recreating lost habitats. This valley where this little pond is used to be covered with all these wetlands, and agriculture, sugarcane in particular, destroyed these habitats. And here we have a private citizen, you know, recreating things that used to be here, and the birds, the animal, you know, the reptiles, the insects, everything comes back, and it just becomes amazing habitats for us to come and visit and for the animals to live happily. This is on the Western Cordillera. On the very far back there toward the center of the slide, you see Cali. That's where I grew up, spent 20 years of my life in Cali. It used to be a much, much smaller town. I think that today it's about 2.5 million people. And this area that we're seeing, the forested area, again, is owned by several of the landowners in this area, and they protect this area. This is one of the hot spots. If you look at the Brown and Hilty and Brown book, the original Bible of bird watching in Colombia, done in 1986, you will see that he mentions this place as one of the hot spots for birding in Colombia. Again, private landowners protecting the forest, so protecting water, protecting, you know, birds and all kinds of creatures that will benefit. And again, they do too, right? This clean air, clean areas. This is again looking on the Western Cordillera. it's not very clear in this slide, but toward the south, which is on the back of the slide, is some famous mountains called the Farallones de Cali. When I was a kid, when I was young, in my teens, mid-teens to late teens, I climbed these mountains. The Farallones de Cali, 4,400 meters, so a little bit over 13,000, close to 14,000 feet. Absolutely fantastic. And now we're going to talk about birds. Colombia, 1,963 known species. They are finding or creating subspecies at the rate of about 2 to 3 species per year. We have about 80 endemic species. Yes, we do have a lot of threatened species due to habitat loss, humans against doing their things. But the numbers are amazing, speak for themselves. 183 species of hummingbird, 113 species of wood creepers. I think I see one up here in the Sierras. And birds, 118 species. Flycatchers, 210. Tanagers, I jokingly say that I get about 1.5 species up here in my area, because mostly we see Western tanager and occasionally we see a summer tanager. So I call it 1.5 species. And in Colombia, you can get 174 species. There's one place that I go, the Western Cordillera, where we can get over 20 species of tanager just in one spot. And warblers, about 57 species of warbler. So the slides that are coming up is just going to be a little tour on the diversity of the bird life in Colombia. And we're going to start with the guans. These are called the Cauca Guans. Most of the guans almost disappear from Colombia. All of the species, they're also called chachalacas. And they were heavily hunted. And, I like to say that from bad things, good things come out. In the 80s and 90s, there was so much craziness in Colombia that a lot of city people stopped going to the countryside hunting. So that stopped because it wasn't safe. People were literally sequestered in the cities, not only by drug lords, but also by the guerrillas. And a whole generation, so the offspring of these guys that couldn't go hunting, grew up without going to the countryside and learning how to hunt. So move forward into the 2000s, and now they are, young adults, and they're probably inherited their parents' country houses and stuff and their farms, and they are letting these birds just roam everywhere because they never learned that you could hunt them and eat them. And in the process of doing that, for example, the Cauca Guan is an endemic species, and it was endangered species, but it's bouncing back really fast just because there is not all the hunting around. So again, from something really dark and ugly, which was that period in the 80s and the 90s, came out this incredible, resurgence of all these species, and also a different mentality in terms of conservation and appreciation of nature than turning it into a commodity for humans. And the anguan, another guy. And then this is one of the most amazing birds that you can see in the jungle, sickle-winged guan. This was taken up in that little national park I told you, Otunquimbaya. And this is the Colombia chachalaca, an endemic species. This guy is just becoming pesky. Everybody dislikes them because they're really noisy, but they don't hunt them, they don't harm them, they just deal with their noise. And we're moving on to wood rails. Many species of wood rails. And remember I told you that I showed you a slide of a river called the Otun River. That's the first time I saw this species, the torrent duck. I saw it at that river. Since then, I found 2 other spots actually closer to Cali where you can go and see them. Actually, I think in one of those trips I took Miss States there. and probably Chris too. She has been there with me. Incredibly gorgeous bird. You will rarely see this bird flying. They prefer to swim against the current or with the current, looking for microinvertebrates. Absolutely beautiful. The male is the guy with the white and the black, and the female has the brown underneath. If you go up into the high Andes, this picture was taken at 13,530 feet or so. You get eagles. This guy is immense, you know, like 7-8 feet wingspan, but you can see how wide the wings are. So it just likes to cruise around looking for little vermin. The most common hawk in Colombia, the roadside hawk, you will find it just about everywhere in Colombia, and love to hang around bird feeders, and like our Coopers and Sharpshin, love to eat those little birdies. This is a migrant, broadwing hawk. They make it all the way down to Colombia. Very common, especially during the winter time. And there we have a crested caracara, another pretty big, beautiful bird. I think we see this in the south part of the United States. And this is a bat falcon. This guy purchased in the same area, and I've been seeing him for 6 years in a row. I've been seeing this guy, and this good friend that I mentioned earlier that used to work with parks went by the spot about like 2 or 3 months ago, and he sent me a WhatsApp message saying, you know, the falcon is still there. So this is great. So they're reproducing and they're safe and they're doing great. And this is an Aplomado falcon, caught it in flight. You can see it was 2014. And this guy, this was a lifer 2 years ago. Double-toothed kite, loves to be in the jungle, looking for little birds and mammals. And swallowtail kite, those of you who have gone to Panama, probably Ecuador too, maybe Costa Rica, I don't know. But anyways, you can see them on the western side of Colombia. And you can see large groups of these guys, big flocks of these guys flying on this canyon surrounded with jungle all over the place. A tropical screech owl, one of the cutest that we get to hear. They call it el currucutú in Colombia, currucutú, because they call. This one was a lifer last year, and I was just minding my own business at the hotel with the hot springs. There's this beautiful creek that comes by the place, and I just decided to follow it. And I was taking pictures, was looking at, you know, for another species of bird, a dipper that we get there. And my friend Fernando taps on my shoulder, and I'm like, don't bother me, I'm looking up for birds. And he said, no, just look up. Just above me was this beauty lifer and rufous banded owl. And another cutie, spectacled owl. This one was found in Valle del Cauca, which is the name of the state where I grew up. The capital is Cali. And common putu, some of you probably have seen those. It's called bien parado in Spanish, interesting behavior. If you look right below the chest of this guy, there's a little whitish little thing there. That's actually the chick. So they will lay the egg on this cut tree trunk, standing tree trunk. They incubate the egg there, and the chick is born there, and they feed it there. These guys have an interesting behavior. They hunt at night. They open their white mouth and just fly eating insects. And during the day, the eyes have these little notches that even if their eyes close, they can sense movement. So if they're being attacked or there's a predator, you know, some whatever coming close to them, they can see and do something about it, like escape. This is one of the many species of ant pitas found in Colombia. We usually visit in the central Andes. We visit that area with 2 endemic species and 2 others that are more common. And then we go to the volcano to find this guy. This is again at 13,500 feet. Tony and Peter, they're big birds. They're kind of funny, you know, little round things, little pear-shaped birds with long legs. Scurry on the bottom of the vegetation, looking for worms and insects. Absolutely magical, very hard to see. They're very skittish, and again, you know, they hide behind vegetation and makes it really hard to see, but occasionally they will show up and you get a picture. Like this is another one, chestnut crown and pita. This one is at a place called Rio Blanco. This is owned actually by the PUC of the city of Manizales in the central Andes. And again, there is a private agency that provides water to the town of Manizales, and they owned all this vast expanse of high Andes mountains, and they protect it because they want, you know, to be able to use the water, and discovered that they have one of the hotspots in the world where you can see the most species in just one area. It has been said that in this place called Rio Blanco, if you stay, you know, longer than a few days, you can get over 400 species of bird. And I've taken mistakes, and Chris, and I don't know if I took Mr. Allman there. I think he went to another trip with me, but you can find these guys there, and they're like almost like tame. The bird guides give them worms, and that's the only way how we can find them. You can hear them, but you cannot see them unless they are tricked with a few worms. Colored trogon, one of the many species that we get there. Incredibly beautiful bird. I love their calls. And this is one found farther down on the western slope of the Western Cordillera. So this is during one of the rainiest, wettest spots on planet Earth, called El Chocó bioregion. And this guy likes to hang around there, this white-tailed trogon. Absolutely beautiful. I got this picture. I had another shot from several years ago, but this guy just came and visited me last year when I did a trip actually, alone on this area, and it was just beautiful. And this is called a crested, golden-headed quetzal, but it's actually a hybrid. It's a hybrid, golden-headed and crested. And they recognize the hybrid for the call. And it looks, if you look on the back of the head, you can see some of the golden feathers. But this guy in this side is reproducing, and they're doing really well. And the nest is next door to this friend's farm that he converted into a bird watching place. I mean, he has like 30 hummingbird feeders and a platform where he puts the plantain, and the place is just crazy with birds. And this guy came and nested on a cavity in a tree right in front of their house. So I got this really sweet picture from them there. And then we're going to go to a few little flycatchers type. This is a sooty-headed tyrannulate. This is one of you can see this one just about everywhere in the mountains in Central Andes and Western Andes, golden-faced tyrannulate. And this is one of the cutest ones. So you can see cinnamon flycatcher, just cute little guy. It was interesting for many years, like in the first years I went birding in Colombia with tours, I will see them a lot in the Western Andes. And then when I started to go to the Central Andes, I started to see them too. And then there was a period of about 2 to 3 years where they became really difficult to see. And the last couple of years, I've seen them again. So there has to be maybe movement within the population of birds, and they just have their sites, I guess, their areas. This one is found also on the Western Andes, on the Western slope, in the hot and rainy area. Long-tailed tyrant, absolutely gorgeous flycatcher. And this is Pelvic Flycatcher. And another golden crown flycatcher. This guy, I will never forget this bird because one time when I started birding big time in Colombia, I kept hearing like one of those little balls that dogs play with a little and I kept going, you know, where is this dog playing with that? Well, that was the call made by this bird. And I used to go to this country house once upon a time, and they used to nest on the roof eave of the house. And it was absolutely spectacular birdie. Cattle Tyrant, I like the name call it, like the cattle egrets, like the yellow-headed caracaras like to hang around cattle. And they spook bugs, and these guys jump around and feed on those. More or less common, you know, especially in cattle areas for big farms. A very small flycatcher found along rivers in the Andes, the Tyrant, cute little guy, not too big, and just, you know, flies, catching bugs, and perches back on the same spot. So you just have to be patient and wait for them to fly off, and they'll come back, and you can get a good shot of them. And this one was a cutie found up in Rio Blanco area, yellow-bellied chat tyrant. Sweet guy, really difficult to see because they camouflage really well. I just got lucky and he gave me the shot. And then chest-affronted macaws. This guy is another species that almost disappeared from Valle del Cauca, again, the state where I grew up at, and they're starting to come back. I have seen them now over Cali. I mean, this is a very loud city of 2.5 million people. And you can see huge flocks of these guys in Cali now. So this is near my sister's country house. And parakeets, parrotlets, sorry, spectacled parrotlets. This is a Tinabu Hotel area. It's just nesting there in bamboo. We have about 100 species of native bamboo in Colombia. Nobody believed me when I used to say that, but yeah, bamboo is native to Colombia. And the parrots love to nest in the bamboo. Endemic, endangered species. This was at that hotel I showed you with the beautiful pool, hot spring pools, where I saw the owl. Just a lucky shot, incredibly difficult to see. This guy is endangered because of habitat loss. They have lost a lot of their forests where they find their food. Again, for cattle. In Colombia, they like to cut down the trees up in the high Andes because it grows really good grass, and cows for milk, you know, love that. And that's one of the big issues out there. But anyways, I got to see it. Absolutely beautiful rufous-fronted parakeet. And then we're going to the hummingbirds. And this is one of the largest hummingbirds in Colombia, great cipher wing. This is a big guy. I mean, when he moves his wings, you can see the movement. It's not a total blur. It is so big. And again, this is at 11,500 feet at the hotel. And this is one of the cutie guys that we specifically go to 13,500 feet to find. This is an endemic, endangered species called the Buffy helmet crest. It's only found, there is 4 subspecies. And this one subspecies, the Buffy helmet, is found in this one area, in an area of about 100 acres, 200 acres or so, right at the entrance to the national park, hence the fact that we go there and park ourselves at that altitude, and we deal with low clouds, fog, rain, so that we can get a look at this guy. Look at the little beard. It's just, and it's very small, it's very tiny. It does get nectar from these little yellow flowers, but it's mostly an insect eater. There is not enough sustenance that they can get from the small flowers, so they eat quite a bit of small insects, small bugs. Choco daggerbill. There is several daggerbills in the area. There's another call, if you want to look in the internet, look for purple back daggerbill. And the colors of these hummingbirds are just absolutely exquisite. This is also in Rio Blanco area. One of my favorite hummingbirds, Tourmaline Sun Angel. This one is at 11,500 feet. There's lots of flowers at that altitude and lots of insects, even at that altitude. And because it's all forest, really high altitude, Andean forest, and very rich ecosystem. And hence, the diversity in the birds. This is in Tinabu Hotel, white-vented plumetier, and very common hummingbird in Colombia, in the Andes area, actually down into the valleys. It's a white-necked Jacobin. It's a pretty big hummingbird. Likes to boss or take ownership, let's put it that way, of the hummingbird feeder, and along with another species whose name is escaping me right now, they like to patrol the hummingbird feeders and they won't let anybody else go in there. Anyways, funny guys. And then we have the Sorbil Hummingbird. This is again at 11,500 feet. They specialize on this one plant that has a big, nice white flower. But they will come to bird feeders too. Believe it or not, it's amazing to see this guy hovering with that humongous bill and feeding out of a little hole on a hummingbird feeder. A very, very tiny hermit, strip-throated. I was lucky to get this shot at Tinabu Hotel about 4 years ago. I haven't seen it since, but it's found in that area. It's in the central Andes, coffee growing area. And this one is much more common. It's a little bit bigger. It's called the green hermit. Exquisite bird. I just love the skies. Color Incas, again at Rio Blanco. And this is one of my favorite hummingbirds, the shiny sunbeam. This is again at 11,500 feet. Again, one of the reasons why we want to go high in elevation and stay at that hotel is because the hummingbirds just blow my mind. It will blow up your mind too. Again, this one again at 11,500 feet, buff-winged star frontlet. The names, the names are incredible. And sometimes they change them. And I'm like, no, don't do that. Rainbow beard thornbill. Again, another exquisite hummingbird up in the high altitude, 11,500. This is a sparkling violet ear. This is one of 3 species of violet ears that we get in Colombia. We got the brown violet ear and the purple violet ear and the sparkling violet ear. This one, actually, this picture I took when I was taking my states last year. We were looking for the Andean condor. Unfortunately, we didn't see the Andean condor, but we got to see this. Again, another beautiful hummingbird. This is on the Western Andes, the place where you get to see the crested golden-headed quetzal hybrid, blue-headed sapphire. Empress Brilliant. And I want you to know, this is a lot of slides, and I could bore you with many more photos. So it is incredibly difficult to select the photos that I want to use for these slideshows, because I have such a collection now. This is found on the Western Andes at about 1,700 meters. So very wet areas. This is the male. And the Andean emerald, another cutie found in our area. Somebody turned the light outside and the snow's coming down really hard. Speckled hummingbird, small guy, very cute. And this one also, another of my favorites, long-tail self. Beautiful, beautiful, beautiful. We have another species of this guy called the violet tail. but I have not been able to get as good of a picture as I've been able with this guy. So one of these days, I'll show you that slideshow. This is called the bumblebee. It's a little guy. They call it the bumblebee, el abejorro in Colombia. Purple-throated wood-star, tiny little hummingbird. Not as tiny as that little tiny guy found in Cuba, but very small. Different species of this guy. This is a booted rackettail and black-throated mangoes. This is a male. And crownwood nymph. This is the green version. There's like 2 subspecies of this guy. Another spectacular bird. Again, you have to be in the right place at the right time, and the break in the sunlight, and it hits the bird, and you have to be there, you know, to get the shot. So it's all worth it. And then probably one of my favorite ever hummingbirds in Colombia, purple-backed thornbill. I mean, these thornbills are just right. I show you the rainbow-throated. I show you the choco. And this is the other one, purple-backed thornbill. This is found at 11,500 feet too. Just gorgeous, absolutely difficult to photograph too. Very difficult habitat. And okay, moving on to wood creepers, cocoa wood creeper. I'm gonna get moving here. Striped-billed wood creeper. A migrant. This is the other half tanager I see up here. And as a matter of fact, I've never seen a male up here. Here in the Sierras, I've seen a female with mistakes too. But very common in Colombia. They like to go south. They go as far as Colombia and I think northern Ecuador. And they will spend their winter there and then they'll come back up. And this is the female. They're beautiful, absolutely gorgeous birds. And flame-rump tanager. This species and the next species called the lemon-rumped are, according to Cornell, they're the same species. So even though they're found in different habitats, the continental divide on the Western Cordillera divided their habitat. If you go west to down into the Pacific coast, you get the Pacific Plain, you get this guy, the lemon rump. But if you're in the Andes, central and eastern side of the Western Andes, you get the flame rumped. So I wrote to them one time and I said, you know, how come you're considering the same species? And they said, well, if you want a job, we can help you go there and do a study about these guys. And unfortunately, I had to tell them I have a really good job and I'm really happy with it. So nope, I'll just keep pestering them. And then this guy, this is an exquisite bird, very difficult to photograph, white-capped tanager. This is in Otunquimbaya area. Remember that place in the Central Andes I mentioned where the nonprofit group runs the show. Beautiful, beautiful bird. And golden nape tanager. Again, the photos are nice, but you should see them when the sunlight hits all these birds. It's just amazing. Crimson back tanager. I think if you've been to Costa Rica or Panama, or maybe even Ecuador and Venezuela, you may be able to see this guy. And bay-headed tanagers. And one of my favorite, silver-throated tanagers. This is on the, I found this on the western side of the Western Cordillera, again, like at about 1,700 meters, sorry. And another cutie, golden hooded tanager. And golden tanagers, I mean, we can go on and on. And a special guy. This is an endemic species to Colombia, the multicolored tanager. I chased this bird for many years to get a good picture, and then eventually I was able to get one. In real life, will blow up your mind. I mean, this is just a photograph, but in real life, they're amazingly beautiful. And so is this guy, the blue-necked tanagers. It's actually a relatively small tanager, but very beautiful. And this was a lifer for last year during that trip on the western side of the Andes, of the Western Andes. Golden-chested tanager, difficult to photograph in the jungle, but I got lucky. along with this guy, another lifer from last year, dusky face tanager. Incredible, difficult to photograph. If it's not the light, it's the rain. If it's not the rain, it's the fog. If it's not the fog, it's the habitat where you are, the terrain. And anyways, but they show up. This is one of my favorites, Barrel Spangled Tanager. What a name. Absolutely exquisite bird. Saffron crowns. Again, it's just a photo. In real life will blow up your mind. Another one from the Western Andes, Rufous-throated tanager, and metallic green tanager, and gray-headed tanager. And then you go up into the high altitude, into the high Andes, and you get what is called mountain tanagers. And this one is at the hotel, at the hot springs. Sorry, I got a little fart there. It's scarlet-bellied. And this one, a hooded mountain tanager, absolutely exquisite guy. And then lachrymose mountain tanagers. And then this one, you can see it on the Western Andes too. This is the black chin mountain tanager. And also this guy, the blue wing mountain tanager. So then we're gonna go to brush finches, slaty brush finch, the guy that you're seeing on my shoulder, right here, pale nape brush finch. This is at 13,500 feet. They like high altitude. And tricolor brush finch on the Western Andes is eating a wizard. Poor little lizard didn't make it. And we're going to euphonias, orange belly, thick belly, very common thick belly, honey creepers, black-winged saltators, and plumbeo Sierra finch, found again at really high altitude, 12,000 plus feet. And this is the dipper that you get in Colombia. This white cap dipper is very interesting. Unlike our dipper here in the Sierras, they will not swim. Our dipper, our American dipper, will go underwater and flap its wings and swim. This one doesn't do that. Their hunting behavior is different. They just walk on the bottom and then come up. They don't do the little flapping of the wings underwater. Again, very beautiful bird. And difficult birds to take shots or see them. The wood wrens, but boy, their voices are absolutely melodic and loud. You can hear them miles away. And yellow-throated vireos, and another migrant, black-birding warbler. I saw this bird first in Colombia, and before I saw it here in the States. Black-crested warbler, golden-fronted red star. This is at about 12,000 feet too. Beautiful bird. An endemic dove, the gray-headed dove, almost hunted to extinction, is making a comeback again. Musk flower piercers, glossy flower piercers, and rusty flower piercers. Incredible with the relationship between these birds and hummingbirds. These guys, if you look at the tip of the upper part of the bill, they have this little hook, and they will make a little hole at the base of the flower to rob the nectar. And many hummingbird species, instead of going through the flower on the top, they have learned just to go through the little hole that these guys have drilled, pre-drilled. Green and black fruit eaters, barred fruit eater. We're almost done, I promise. Crimson rum toucanet. I just thought I will show you some good stuff. Southern emerald toucanets, black belly mountain toucanet. This guy, the nest. The nest was just above the bill, another like 7-8 inches. And he was feeding the chick, and the male will go in and the female come out. I have another shot of them flying in and out of the nest. And then we got this guy, citron-throated toucan. This is in a state north of my state in Antioquia. This was a really sweet find. Red-headed barbet. This is another one of those brute birds they like to kick everybody out of the feeder, and they just want to be theirs. So everybody, as soon as they see this guy, they run away. Another rare bird. It took me many years to be able to get a good picture of this guy and see it in real life. Toucan barbets on the western side of the Andes. Green jays, black collared jay, and black crested jay, and red ruff fruit crow. This is Tunquimbaya. The little reddish thing gets really elongated during the mating season, and it's one of the things that they use for displaying. And the Andean cock of the rock, very close to Cali, actually. I took this picture. And autopendulas, and a lot of woodpeckers. We're going to move through it. Spot woodpecker, golden olive, Max titira. This is on the western side of the Western Andes. Puffbirds, little Tinabu. This is the little bird that gave the name to the hotel, one of the places that I go to visit at all. And the caretaker of the place had semi-tamed this guy, and he will give us some little grounded corn, and this guy will show up his face really early in the morning. I took mistakes there last year, and we were able to see it very close range. Incredibly difficult to see, again, like the other birds that hang around on the bottom of the forest, but you can hear them. Really beautiful melodic call. A few mammals I've come across up there, down there in Colombia: Howler monkeys, whiteface cappuccinos, and neotropical river otter. This guy got really lucky. I just caught a fish and he was munching on it. And I'm going to let you almost done here with number 98. That's what they call it, el 98. Some people call it 98, some other call it el 88, the 88. I have not decided which I should go with the 98 or the 88. So we can have a vote after this. And this is the last slide. And on this slide, I am going to, I was being a bird whisperer, and this is what happened. Okay, we move to the last slide, and thank you for your time. I hope this was worth your time, and I appreciate you being here. This is the name of my company, Guadalito Birding Tours, but more important, I work with Audubon, Eastern Sierra Audubon, and I would love, once this craziness with this COVID-19 passes, we would love to see you guys up here. Give us a call. My neighbor and co-worker and board of directors of Eastern Sierra Audubon, Nora Livingstone, works with me too. And we would love to bring you guys up here and take you on fantastic walks. So having said that, I'm going to remove myself from the screen, and I'm going to pass the baton to Teresa or Catherine. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Santiago. That just, oh my goodness, so many beautiful, beautiful birds that you shared with us. Thank you so much.
You're welcome.
A reminder that if you have a question, please, there's lots of thanks coming to you, Santiago, here.
Oh, that's very nice.
For the great show and the stories. Amazing. We're getting beautiful. Thank you. Right off the top, Melissa wanted to know, oh, and she's written it again. Thanks, Melissa. She would like to know the name of the hotel, the very first one you showed, the aerial with the hot springs.
That is called Hotel Termales del Ruiz. Hotel Termales. Termales, Termales.
Oh, like thermals.
Del Ruiz, DEL, Del Ruiz is the name of the volcano, RUIZ, and that's a native name.
Great. Thank you. And around that same time, right out the gate, Bobby wanted to, because that's over 10,000 feet, right? That
11,500 feet. So
right.
yeah.
She was curious to know about the quality of the roads, and she had found that she found them quite scary. And Chris Mainland White wrote back and said she thought they were, she found them quite passable and paved. And what do you say?
I mean, the places where I go, the roads are pretty good. Yes, we do go on some dirt roads, but they are, I mean, we can take a small, van full of people. I don't take more than 6 individuals at the same time. I like to bird, not to herd. And and we can take nice little Mercedes-Benz vans with all of our equipment and guides and driver and all the stuff on the roads everywhere we go. Another person, and I'm gonna put her on the spot, if you have any questions about like that things like the roads and the thing, talk to either Chris or Miss Estates.
It's Chris or Nancy. I think there's some other folks on this.
The Almans went to Colombia. They did one of my tours in the Valle del Cauca area.
I see them there nodding. Hello,
Yeah.
Barbara and John.
Yeah, I see the fireman there.
If anybody who was on the trip wants to comment, please feel free, either unmute yourself, or if you want to raise your hand down in the reaction button, you can raise your hand if you want to make a comment.
And Joanne, yes. I see you. You gotta unmute yourself, Joanne.
So there's a few, and I had this question too. How do folks do with the altitude and climatizing to it, acclimating to it?
Good question. I have had a couple of challenges with a couple of clients, and it took them a little bit longer to acclimatize. And one of the things that I've done in years past is, if we have issues with high altitude, what we do is that we don't spend the night at the hotel up there, but we'll go down to Manizales, which is several thousand feet lower, and we'll just do a day trip. Another thing, and this may sound a little weird to some of you, but don't recoil too hard. You can drink coca tea. And that's what the natives of South America have done for eons, literally several thousand years. It wasn't until some chemist decided to be smarty pants with a sacred plant that turned it into an evil product. But the natives consume the coca leaf, and you can buy it legally in supermarkets in Colombia and make coca tea. You can go, actually, there's a little restaurant, we call it the Crystal Palace because it's all surrounded by glass. You get 360 degrees views of the mountains, and you can get tea there, or you can get tea at the hotel. So as also, if you have issues with altitude, I will be super careful. Again, we go to 13,500 feet for a few hours. And if we stay at the hotel, we have stay up to 2 nights up there because the burden is so fantastic. But we could go down to Manizales and go up for day trips.
Okay.
So there are different options. But if you have issues with altitude, like if you come to Mammoth Lakes or Leave Island and you have a hard time with the altitude, I recommend do not go. It's not a good idea.
Mary commented that when they visit the Andes, she takes, is it Diamox?
Diamox, correct. You can talk to your doctor and he can give you a prescription for it.
Okay. Robin asked, what was the name of that very small bird with a crest and a small collar? Was that one of the hummingbirds?
The rainbow beard? Thornbill?
Yes.
No, it was before that. It was in your it's a 100 acre. It was in a very small area. It was in the beginning. I tried to Google it.
In the beginning?
Yes, it was. You said it was in a very small.
Oh, you're talking
Acreage.
about the Buffy helmet crest.
Yes, that's
Yeah,
it.
that's
Thank
the
you.
one. That's the hummingbird at 13,530 feet to be exact. And that guy, yes, it's only found in that area. This particular subspecies, there is in the Santa Marta, in the Sierra Nevada, the Santa Marta Mountains, there is another one. And Serranía del Cucuy has another one on the eastern end. So, yeah, this is a treat to see this guy because he's so rare. And I've been there. I go there every year. Unfortunately, I won't be going this year. But just about every year, at least 2 out of the 3 trips I do, they get to see it. It's very rarely when we don't get to see it. And if we don't get to see it, well, we will see it flying around. So it's
Wonderful.
not
Thank you.
difficult to find. Yeah, you're welcome.
And Santiago, just a follow-up on the altitude. Is there oxygen available at hotels there?
No.
Okay. Okay. There's a question. Do you own any land there for the purpose of conservation?
No, I am one of the guilty ones. My family was into sugarcane. Yeah, I know. But we're getting rid of my mother passed away last year, and we're trying to get rid of that land, and I'm looking forward to get something up in the mountains that hopefully will become a little refuge. So that's kind of the plan.
Lovely. There's a question, where do you spend the most time to see the largest number of birds on your trips?
Oh boy, everywhere. Seriously, there isn't a place that we go where we are not, where we don't see multiple species of birds. I mean, we can go like on the Western Cordillera, we go what we call the House of the Argentino. This Argentinian and his Colombian wife bought this farm, and he has all these hummingbird feeders and banana feeders and stuff. And that place is incredible, crazy. I mean, when we go there, I tell my clients to please sit down and just look at one bird feeder for a little while. Don't go looking everywhere because you go cuckoo and I'll have to drag you out of here. It's that insane, But there's areas like Rio Blanco, right? It's one of the favorite places for Hilty, the guy that wrote, the original bird watching book of field guide birds to Colombia. And he still goes there. And as I say, you can see about 400 plus species if you stay there several days. As a matter of fact, I almost froze mistakes there one time. The first time we went there, she almost became a popsicle up there because it was so cold.
Wow.
That's terrible. I
Oh, look at that, mistakes. How are you doing?
It's fine. How are you?
I'm doing wonderful, watching the snowfall.
Wow.
Good to see you, Nancy.
Hi, Joan.
Thank you for bringing us Santiago.
You're welcome, Teresa. I highly recommend his trips. They are really a lot of fun. And the Hotel Tinabu is just marvelous. Oh, it is so stunning. And the whole area there is, you sit on this outdoor living room and watch these birds at the feeders. And it's just spectacular. All of the places are, especially the one in the high altitude. I agree, that's a tough one to handle, but it is worth it to see that buffy crested hummingbird. And all the odd plants. They're very, very strange plants. It's almost like something from Star Wars. It's really neat.
And when you go bored, you can get into the swimming pool, which is a hot spring water.
Yes, yes, Chris knows that one well.
Yes.
Chris and Marcia went swimming. Yeah, it's cold up there though. That's a cold one.
Please stop that.
But it also has trout to eat.
Yeah, really good fish. So I mean, you can find, there's different companies there. There's different styles of doing that. So don't think that Guadalito Birding Tours is the only one. There's tons of good friends that have companies and keep birding and doing things out there. And every trip will be an exquisite trip. I think that it's a good way to show Colombia and get you to understand that it's an amazing place with amazing human beings that inhabit there and live there and share their life. Friendly people, incredibly good food, and the countryside and the wildlife, especially the birds, is just out of this world. But if you want to come with me, you're welcome.
Well, to piggyback on the question about you.
Yeah, I went to Colombia with him.
He's aged, hasn't he?
Well, we all have. Santiago. There's
Yes.
John and, well, I can't think of his wife's
Can
name.
they see us? You?
No, because I
Which screen are you? 1, 2, 3, or 4?
no, I didn't see him. I don't think-
Who's talking right now?
John.
John.
John Allman?
Is it John and Marcia?
No.
John
Is
and
John and Marcia?
who was it?
Huh. Anyways, so you were saying?
So Santiago, I'm just curious, will you, kind of to piggyback on the question about spending time in one particular place, will you give us a sense of what a typical trip would be, the length and how often you move and things like that? I don't know if maybe I'm just living vicariously because I've been cooped up in my apartment for a year, but I think I want to imagine a little bit like what it would be like.
Again, I do 9 days plus 2 days of travel, 1 day to get there and 1 day to come back. 9 days, and we try to visit at least 4 different places. But there is times, for example, where somebody recommend or I have been to a place that I scouted and it's on the way between one side to another, and we will do a side trip. For example, with Nancy States, with her group, we were going to the coffee growing area, and I knew this place that we have been to years past, but this time somebody said that they had a boat. So we went and got on the boat, and we did this beautiful ride through this marsh area, and we had a great time. So we try to see 4 different habitats. In the country growing area, we go to Hotel Tinabu or Tunquimbaya, that the mist doesn't like. We go to Tinamu, Rio Blanco, and Termales, actually 5 places. And then I have a very good friend that has a gorgeous country house in the Western Andes. And we go to her country house and we stay there for the end of the trip. So we stay about 2.5 days per site or so. However, if people like a place and we hear about places nearby that I haven't been to or that I've been to, that I think it will be worth going, we'll just do side trips. We have our own vehicle and they stay, on the driver. And if it's a small group, like I've done many times, I will rent, like a big SUV and I'll drive it. And we get all kinds of adventures with that too, right, Miss?
Yes, and it's always very relaxed. It's very easygoing, and he's easygoing, and it's also very reasonable. Money-wise, it's a reasonable trip for what you get. It's terrific.
Sounds
And
lovely.
flying down there is easy too.
Sounds lovely.
Yep.
Santiago, there's a question about the security situation. The comment is the security situation has vastly improved as a question mark. You would say it's generally safe anywhere in Colombia now?
Let's put it this way. There was a peace treaty signed in 2017 in Colombia. And I've been doing tours since 2008. That's when I started going with clients to Colombia. And initially I would just stay within certain areas. And as the years went and tourism became, ecotourism and bird watching became, bigger and bigger in Colombia happening, people started to tell me of new places that they have gone with clients. A lot of British folk go to Colombia. They're pretty brave and they go to all these places. And I started to go to different areas, and then the peace treaty came in, and that opened an incredible diversity of places. Like, I don't know if you remember the slideshow I was showing you some tanagers on the Western Cordillera that I said were difficult to photograph because of the vegetation. I took this very rinky-dinky dirt road in the jungle with this friend of mine, and we just drove around and spend the night on this very small town by a beautiful river. And I mean, I can go to places now. I don't go to cities. I don't like cities. I live in a little town of 270 people called Levining for a reason. I don't like cities, and I like to go to the countryside because you'll be surprised how humble and friendly and sweet the people in the countryside are. So that's why we go out. So yes, we don't do stupid things. We will not go walking in cities or towns with our cameras and our binoculars, although I have had clients that I've had to remind them, hey, you're carrying something on your, across your shoulders that is worth, their salary for 10 years, right? That's not fair. So don't show it. And so you just have to be street smart and listen to your guide, and you'll do just great.
Fantastic.
Like anybody else in the world. Like I do visits for my job. I go to East LA, right? I am not gonna look the way I dress up here and go stand myself up in the middle of East LA. Well, I did it once, and there was a drive-by. And you just have to be smart for where you are and listen to the people of the area because they know best. So,
Great.
Yeah.
Great. Mo McFadden is asking about the toucanets.
Yes, which one?
She says, I love the toucanets. Never saw one before. How much smaller are they than the standard toucans? Are they
About half
endangered?
the size, I would say. Half the size of a big toucan.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I
We're
found
talking
that.
about the emerald and the crimson rumped. Those are the two ones I show you. Those are the ones that you see very well in the Central Andes and the Western Andes. Yeah.
Mm. And I remember to comment on you talking about seeing them in real life versus photos. I remember seeing a toucan flying when I was in Costa Rica, and
that big
my
bill.
mind was blown. This huge bill. I mean, they're so light, but it just looks so aerodynamically strange, just to see it in flight and all these, these
They are
birds I've seen
big
photos
nest
of.
robbers. They will find nests and they will eat the chicks and eat the eggs. Everything. I mean, lizards, snakes. I mean, they're amazing. I've seen them. This guys just eat just about everything. They're omnivores. Seeds. Yeah. Anyways.
Okay, so now this is getting to the important stuff, Santiago. Kevin asks, can you talk about the food? And Carrie says, arepas and chocolate.
Now we're talking. Different zones, different areas in Colombia have different foods, and I try to introduce you to the typical foods for the particular areas. But there are certain foods that are common in Colombia, like the arepa. Imagine a much thicker tortilla, but made out with white corn, whiter corn than the white that you get here, and it's very thick, and it's absolutely delicious. It's kind of a breakfast must have. Like when I go to Colombia, I don't eat bread. I just eat arepas. So, but there are soups and there are people that will only eat fish. So we have to find them fish. And there's a lot of trout being grown up in the Andes, in the cold waters of the rivers up there. But beans and rice and salads and, occasionally some meat. But there is like typical dishes like sancocho, that is a soup with yuca, potatoes, chicken. I mean, it's just, I'm talking about it and I'm visualizing it already, and I'm going to hang up and call my sister and say, how do you make it?
There's corn in it too.
And there's corn in it, corn on the cob. Yeah. So there is typical foods, and you can also get a little bit more fancier meals if you want to. But the idea of going to Colombia is to try, what Colombia has to offer. And I think that, and the meals are not spicy. So we're not talking Mexico here or Peru, where the food is super spicy. We're talking Colombia, and the flavors are not spicy oriented.
Mhm.
Lots
So
of vegetables.
don't get me wrong, I will go for a tacos with as hot spicy salsa as I can get. But
What
that's
what did you say, Nancy?
status.
I don't know.
I thought you said something about the food after
I talked,
Santiago.
all I mentioned was there's a lot of vegetables. It's very fresh. Everything's fresh. And you can eat the salads. You can eat all the food. There's no big problem like there is in Mexico. It's very, very clean and very well taken care of everywhere, even in little towns. Stop in
I
little
just
towns.
saw Elizabeth. I don't know where you are, Elizabeth. No, not all my tours are high elevation. I have a tour that doesn't go higher than about 7,000 feet, and it goes down into the valley, Valle del Cauca Valley. So not everything is a high altitude, but there is a correlation though between cooler environments and the habitat, the trees and the plants and the insects and the reptiles that creates unique habitats for birds. So you can get, quite a bit in the valleys. Like we go to wetlands, for example, when I do the tour in the valley, and there is this oxbows from the main river that goes through my state. Rio Cauca has left all these oxbows, and the aquatic birds are fantastic. I mean, there's cocoy herons and purple gallionets and common gallionets, and there's all kinds of guys of birds. But when you go in elevation and it's cooler, and there's many more flowers and many more habitat created like for seeds and insects, right? The bird life just explodes when you go a little higher. Plus, I hate the heat.
Me too.
Me too. Mm.
Me too.
There's just one more comment, Santiago.
Yes.
Stephen, it's just a comment, not so much a question. He just wanted to share that he spent a year in the Central Cordillera in Colombia in the mid 1970s. The birds were fantastic. The roads were much worse then, and I would have no hesitation visiting now. But Bobby did mention that it wasn't the roads, it was the drivers that scared her when she was there.
Yeah.
I
That's
agree.
why I really vet my drivers, and I will not hesitate to pull their ears if they're being stupid. My thing is, let's go there, have a fun, and let's all come back home with great memories of a great place, both with humans and nature. So yeah, that's not part of my deal. And the roads, actually, most of the main roads in Colombia are toll roads. So you pay and you get incredibly very nice roads, but you have to pay for it.
Mm-hmm. Great.
So
Well, Santiago, thank you so much. Do you have
thank you, Teresa.
anything else to share before I give some closing notes?
Well, come back. It's closer to come to Mono Basin. It's closer to come to Livining. So you can ask anybody in town, where is Santiago, and they can tell you where I am, because it's a very small town. I work with the fire department. I work with Monolith Committee. I do taxes and documents to the Latinos here. So you can ask anybody about where to find me. And I would love to take you guys birding up here. There is incredible. We have about 345 species of birds up here in the Mono Basin. And eventually, if you come and get to know me and enjoy my company, so that you can put up with 11 days with me in Colombia, then we can talk about that. But let's do the easy part first. Let's come up here and go birding. And again, there's Chris and Joanne and Nancy States and the Almonds. All of them have gone to Colombia on different trips with me. So I think that they're great resources. You know, they can share with you their experience, and they can say the bad things, which I'm not going to mention. I'll let them say it, and see if it's something that you want to try. I mean, you are all welcome. Again, I don't take more than 6 people at a time. Like to bird, not to herd. We got to keep it nice and cozy, and it's easier to maneuver with 6 people, easier to put everybody on a van, easier to pack the bags. Anyways, logistically, it's just fantastic just to make a small groups and cozy groups and come home with lots of good memories. Having said that, thank you for your time. I really appreciate Santa Barbara Audubon. And maybe I will come. You guys live way too far away, but one of these days I'll try to come back to one of your Christmas bird counts, and hopefully I get to join you, or maybe go to the meal and hang around with you guys more.
Yeah.
Thank you again.
Fantastic. In the meantime, stay warm. When Santiago and I emailed this morning, he had 14 inches of snow. And then when we checked in for the program, there's 2 feet of snow. So who knows how many there is now.
Well, the big storm is coming in this evening. So that was kind of the little mellow storm. So. Highway, by the way, Highway 395 is close between Mammoth Lakes and the border with Nevada. There's no traffic on Highway 395.
Wow.
I looked at the webcam. It is terrible.
Excuse me, it's lovely.
Yeah, but not driving.
I don't drive it.
All right, everyone. I just wanted to have I wanted to add a couple parting notes before we depart. We have recorded the presentation, and it will be made available on our website. So please, if you want to invite anybody to watch it, or if you want to watch it again, there was so many amazing images and birds. Please do. It will be available along with the recordings from our first 3 programs, which one was on hummingbirds, the other one on alternatives to rodenticides, and one on using native California plants to create bird habitat at home. All of those you can find links to at our website, which is santabarbaraAudubon.org. And thanks to David Levasheff for doing all that, putting all that together. Our next program will be in exactly 4 weeks. It's on Wednesday, February 24th. It is entitled Estuaries, California's Marine Nurseries, and it's with Andrea Jones, who is with Audubon California, and she's the Director of Bird Conservation. So please join us for that. That will also be virtual. And thanks again to Santiago. Thank you, Catherine, for being our tech support. And thank you all for attending, and have a great night.
Thank you, Catherine. Thank you, Teresa.
Thanks, Teresa. Terrific.
Thank you. It's lovely.
Thank you all.